Chapter 33 Laws of Marriage, Leviticus 18, 6-18. None of you shall approach to any that is near of kin to him to uncover their nakedness. I am the Lord. The nakedness of thy father, or the nakedness of thy mother, shalt thou not uncover. She is thy mother, thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. The nakedness of thy father's wife shalt thou not uncover, it is thy father's nakedness. The nakedness of thy sister, the daughter of thy father, or the daughter of thy mother, whether she be born at home or born abroad, even their nakedness thou shalt not uncover. The nakedness of thy son's daughter, or of thy daughter's daughter, even their nakedness thou shalt not uncover, for theirs is thine own nakedness. The nakedness of thy father's daughter, begotten of thy father, she is thy sister, thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy father's sister, she is thy father's near kinswoman. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy mother's sister, for she is thy mother's near kinswoman. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy father's brother, thou shalt not approach to his wife, she is thine aunt. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy daughter-in-law, she is thy son's wife, thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy brother's wife, it is thy brother's nakedness. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of a woman and her daughter, neither shalt thou take her son's daughter, or her daughter's daughter, to uncover her nakedness, for they are her near kinswoman, it is wickedness. Neither shalt thou take a wife to her sister, to vex her, to uncover her nakedness, besides the other in her lifetime. Leviticus 18, 6-18. The first thing to note with respect to these laws is that they govern marriage. We are given a list of forbidden marriages. All non-marital sex is illicit. Not all unions of male and female are permitted. That is, not all men nor all women are eligible marital partners. In the earliest days of mankind, the genetic potentialities of Adam and Eve carried all the possibilities of all races and peoples. Hence, close marriages then were not as genetically close and consequently hazardous as marriage today between two Irish or two Germans. After the expansion of the human race, closely related unions were banned by God and, all over the world, were recognized in time as wrong. They did persist, however, in certain elements of society, namely royalty, nobility, and the very wealthy. As a student, I recall the contemptuous amusement of a professor as he described a list posted from the medieval era in a cathedral. It began with the commandment, "Thou shalt not marry thy grandmother." He would ask his classes each year, and who would want to marry his grandmother? And then proceed to comment on the stupidity of medieval Christians. His attitude rested on ignorance. In many societies, the compelling reason for all incestuous unions was the consolidation of power and property, and marriage was seen, not as an end in itself, but as an instrument towards power and property. As a result, the medieval church, to prevent continual inbreeding, went beyond the forbidden degrees of Leviticus in its rules on marriage. Despite the church's efforts, the nobility, and especially the royalty of Europe, contributed substantially to its own irrelevance and its physical and mental deterioration by its inbreeding. The history of Europe might well have been different had the royal families been less inbred and less unstable and stupid. Second, these laws are all addressed to men. The Bible never denies the guilt of women in sexual offences. If the woman is promiscuous, she is often seen, as in Proverbs 7, 1-27, as the aggressor and primary offender. Normally, however, the primary guilt is the man's, and hence these laws are directed to men. The Bible gives headship in marriage to men, and this also means greater responsibility and culpability. The establishment of a family normally requires a man's initiative, and hence the law speaks here to men. Third, we have the repeated use of the phrase, uncover the nakedness, which we are told is a synonym for sexual intercourse. However, as North noted, in some cases the nakedness of a woman was considered to belong to her husband. Illicit relations with a woman are seen as in part an aggressive act against the husband or father, so that a woman is sexually exploited and a man shamed and degraded. Since neither men nor women are seen in Scripture in atomistic terms, but as members of families, a sexual offence involves more than the man and woman engaged in a sexual act. To a degree, only the female prostitutes and the male prostitutes or sodomite are considered as isolated and non-familistic individuals. This is why the common opinion that these are simply laws dealing with illicit sexuality is wrong. All the possible unions cited here, as well as those implied, are certainly illicit, but the focus is on marriage. The focus of sexuality in Scripture is the family, and biblical law mandates the permitted forms thereof. Fourth, the biblical laws concerning marriage are all God-centered, not man-centered. Historically, the laws of marriage have been, in non-biblical cultures, governed by human needs and desires. We have seen that unions within the forbidden degrees have occurred to retain property and power. This was common in the royal families of ancient Egypt and Persia, where brother and sister marriages were routine, and in recent centuries as well, at least among the chiefs or rulers in Siam, Burma, Ceylon, Uganda, and the Hawaiian Islands. In Pentecost Island of the New Hebrides, it was the custom to marry the daughter's daughter of a brother. Polyandry, in which all brothers share a wife in common, has existed in order to preserve property intact over the generations. Ancestor worship was once very widespread and was a means of ensuring the centrality of the family in humanistic terms. In such cultures, ultimate authority normally resided with the family and its customs and traditions. This view of authority did more than give stability to society, it tended towards fixity, as in pre-Marxist China. The family assumed responsibility for its members, so that a man without a network of kinship could not be readily trusted, because no one was accountable for him. As Marjorie Wolfe noted, wealth cannot make up for this deficiency of a family any more than it can make up for the loss of arms and legs. Money has no past, no future, and no obligations. Relatives do. Without question, this kind of family network gives security, but it failed to give moral strength to society. The strength of family networks as the basis of society is no more a moral force than is the totalitarian control of a power state. Moral force comes from the triune God. In God-centered society, the rites and ceremonies of marriage make it clear that marriage is under God and according to His laws. Christian marriage and biblical law place both husband and wife and their children as well under God's law. Marriage is a restraint upon both husband and wife, and it imposes duties and responsibilities. It is more the assumption of mature tasks under God than it is self-fulfillment, and only as the tasks and duties are assumed and continually met does it provide self-fulfillment. As Foley noted, we are taught by the gospel that restraints are imposed and self-denial demanded, not for their own sakes, but as a means to truer and more abiding blessedness. Holy matrimony has been divinely instituted for man's good, and to be a source of blessing. In happy married life, man is to find his truest and most lasting happiness, and to reach the fullest perfection of which his nature is capable. In humanistic cultures and marriages, the inability of husband and wife to transcend themselves and their egocentricity is a source of continual problems of an insoluble nature. Problems are common to all marriages. In a Christian marriage, they are normally soluble. It is an ironic fact that, whereas earlier the modern temper saw marriage as the bondage of a woman, the newest bit of pseudo-wisdom declares, marriage is the best revenge. It was men who, with the rise of humanism, began to speak of marriage as bondage. It should not surprise us that, after a few centuries of such idiocy on the part of men, women should begin to voice a like stupidity. All such thinking is anti-Christian. It presupposes a war of the sexes, not their harmony. For the fallen man, all creation is at war with him. The stars in their courses fought against Sisera, Judges 5:20. Because the fallen man is at war against God, the consequence of the fall is total, blind and insane warfare. Man against God, man against man and woman, man against the world around him, and man against himself. Fallen man, in his blindness, stupidity, and sin, works to turn God's magnificent harmony in creation to a realm of war. In the end, he kills himself, not God, and not God's purposes in creation. Fifth, it must be recognized that not every forbidden degree of union is listed. Thus, the union of a father or mother with a daughter or son is not listed because it is assumed to be forbidden. Better, it is all banned in verse 6, which reads, in Robert Young's literal translation of the Holy Bible, "None of you unto any relation of his flesh doth draw near to uncover nakedness. I am Jehovah." Relation of his flesh is translated by Nordsey as flesh of his body, and the word translated as body has reference at times to sexual organs. The family is a physical unity, and sexual relations with such a close blood relative really constituted nothing more or less than sexual intercourse with oneself. Thus, all close relatives are excluded as marital partners. It has often been noted that similar laws existed in many cultures of antiquity. This is not entirely true. For slaves, who were commonly non-persons before the law, such laws did not apply if the man guilty of the offence were a free man cohabiting with slave women. There are several examples of this in various cultures, as witness the following from Hittite laws. 194. If a free man cohabit with several slave girls, sisters, and their mother, there shall be no punishment. If blood relations sleep with the same free woman, there shall be no punishment. If father and son sleep with the same slave girl or harlot, there shall be no punishment. 195. If, however, a man sleeps with the wife of his brother while his brother is living, it is a capital crime. If a man has a free woman in marriage and then lies also with her daughter, it is a capital crime. If a man has a daughter in marriage and then lies also with her mother or her sister, it is a capital crime. 200a. If a man does evil with a horse or a mule, there shall be no punishment. He must not appeal to the king, nor shall he become a case for the priest. If anyone sleeps with a foreign woman, and also with her mother or her sister, there will be no punishment. Examples of people being non-persons before the law are not uncommon in Christendom. In the United States, the U.S. Supreme Court declared slaves to be property and not persons in the Dred Scott case, and the unborn were denied personhood in Roe v. Wade. The only exception made with respect to the forbidden degrees is the levirate, which requires, when a close relative dies without an heir, that the next of kin take the widow and provide an heir. Deuteronomy 25, 5-10, compare Matthew 22, 23 following. In verse 18, we have a prohibition of polygamy. It is of note that, while adultery was condemned as treason to marriage and society, polygamy was tolerated as a lesser form of marriage. However, we have two interesting statements made concerning polygamy. A second wife will vex the first. The word vex has lost much of its force in today's English. In the Hebrew, sarar comes from the word to cramp. It means adversary, enemy, afflict, besiege, bind up and oppress. It is at least an evidence of disrespect, if not a hostile act, to add wife to wife. Moreover, B, it means to uncover her nakedness, which means, at the very least, to shame her. If this is what a plural wife means to the first wife, we are told implicitly that adultery is an even greater act of hostility and shame. What is required of a godly marriage is holiness. What unlawful sexuality results in, at the least, is shame. We have seen that union within the forbidden degrees is common as a means to consolidating power and property. Rabbi J. H. Hertz called attention to this, noting, "It was a practice among Eastern heirs apparent to take possession of the father's wives as an assertion of their right to the throne, that action identifying them with the late ruler's personality in the eyes of the people. This explains Reuben's conduct in Genesis 35:2. There is a sixth fact to be noted. As Wenham has pointed out, in the Bible, marriage establishes a new life and a new relationship. Marriage makes a girl more than a daughter-in-law. She becomes a daughter to her husband's parents, Ruth 1:11-3:1. Biblical law thus literally applies Genesis 2:24, they shall be one flesh. Hence, the forbidden degrees include in-laws. The modern perspective bypasses this biblical fact entirely. Atomistic man feels no ties to family, kinfolk, and in-laws are trifles, so he severs them readily. In contrast, paganism has often made ties of blood and marriage ironclad and irrevocable. The Bible tells us that they are very real, but still not determinative, because man and marriage must be under God's law. The faith establishes a new relationship. While he yet talked to the people, behold, his mother and his brethren stood without, desiring to speak with him. Then one said unto him, Behold, thy mother and thy brethren stand without, desiring to speak with thee. But he answered and said unto him that told him, Who is my mother, and who are my brethren? And he stretched forth his hand toward his disciples and said, Behold my mother and my brethren. For whosoever shall do the will of my Father which is in heaven, the same is my brother, and sister, and mother. Matthew 12:46-50. On one occasion, our Lord goes further to declare, If any man come to me and hate not his father, and mother, and wife, and children, and brethren, and sisters, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. And whosoever doth not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Luke 14:26-27. Our supernatural relationship to God and our supernatural family in Christ must take precedence over and govern our relationship to our natural family.